Thank you, Jeremy, for coming to this discussion. I think this is a topic that a lot of people will be interested in. You and I have briefly spoken about this, about the impact of AI on the CRE, and of course, it is impacting us in all sorts of ways. But I'm aware that you have a particular interest in this, and you have a certain view that you've shared with me before, which I think will be really valuable for the broader audience to hear about. So I guess before we jump into the project, do you want to give us a brief description of yourself, and then we can start going straight into the AI, which is the topic of today.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. Yes, I've been in corporate real estate for over 30 years. Been lucky enough to work in different geographies. Worked in Asia, did some work in the US and LATAM. But primarily in Asia, and then back in the last 14 years into Europe. Worked for the majority of the time on the corporate side, on the client side, but also at the beginning of my career and more recently towards the end of my career on the supplier side. But a fantastic 30 plus years, experienced loads of things, learnt lots as well, and met some wonderful people. And the topic of AI really has grabbed my interest. I think probably in the last year or so, when it became apparent that a lot of people were talking about it as something of a future event, and we must be aware it's coming, and when's it going to impact our industry. And then before you know it, and this is where we are now. In fact, it is all around us, and it's something that I realized really in the last year, as I said, that if you didn't, and I wanted to embrace it, if you sort of blinkered yourself and ignored the fact that it was all around us, then you would miss the opportunities. And I think it's important certainly for myself in advising clients, or being a client myself and working with the business, understanding the benefits of AI and how we all can use that, and that's what really sparked my interest, and that's why I'm continuing to try and learn as much as possible. I'm not nowhere near there yet, but it's something that I continue to want to learn more about and use when I can.
Yeah, definitely. I think AI has impacted even my personal life in all sorts of ways.
Yeah.
When I look at, even my son talks about AI, which is fascinating. I mean, he's only 6 years old, and he comes home from school and says, "Mummy, we tried AI at school today," and he says A, B, C, D, E. So I just kept saying, in terms of, if it's impacting children at such a young age, and they get to be exposed to what AI does, just imagine when they grow up, let's say 20 years time, what would the whole industry be like?
Yeah.
Will we necessarily really get replaced? That's a scary thought.
Yeah.
But maybe that's a opportunity to elevate ourselves to do something a bit more meaningful, more analytical.
Yeah.
Right? So I think I do have some specific thoughts about AI, but I'd love to hear your view. So tell me, what triggered your particular interest in exploring AI? I know you've recently done a lot of reading about AI and so on. What triggered that interest?
The interest was triggered just I became aware of the power of AI, and I wanted to be a real estate advisor, a real estate consultant, or just involved in the real estate commercial world, with the ability to leverage the vast opportunities that AI provides. And I think in understanding it as best as possible, you can then put yourself in a position to use all that data, use all the information that's provided to really hone in on the right advice to your clients. I don't see it as a threat. I see it as something that sort of augments my experience to a client, because the world when I started was a lot of heavy lifting of data collection and analysis of data, and the data wasn't always complete, and it didn't focus in on the right areas where data was actually required. Now more and more data is available. AI has a fantastic ability to pull it all together and present the user, in this case myself, with a lot of information, and it's really shifting my focus from doing the analysis myself and then doing the advisory than taking the analysis and taking the information and sort of enhancing that and seeing where it will fit in to the respective clients that I work with.
Yeah. Can you give me a specific example of that
I think,
in real life?
In real life, let me think. Often I think, so I'll start again. There are clients that want an advisor or an advisory firm to provide strategic advice, and it could be on, a location strategy. It could be on a design and build, a build out strategy for a floor or for a building, and it could be on just how to optimize the utilization of the footprint that the organization have. I think with AI, we are now able to, provided the appropriate amount of information and data is provided to AI in the first place, we are able now to provide a much greater level of advice and more detailed advice based on the output we're given from AI and the AI platforms. So I think what the example I'm going to give you for why I'm interested is that when you are advising clients, you want to be able to give them the right advice and also the best advice compared to other best practices in the market. And if you leave AI out of it and the benefits that AI can provide, you'll end up falling short and sort of missing out on opportunities to your competitors. So you just need to be aware of all of the opportunities that it provides. But there wasn't one situation or the one particular client or one situation, but I realized that if I didn't adopt and understand as much as possible about the benefits of AI, then I would fall behind and wouldn't be as effective in the role that I have.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially in the advisory role, we have to understand what it does and its capabilities. So it seemed to be impacting us in all sorts of ways. Some of the examples we went through on work in terms of decision making and our personal life or so. What do you think will be the biggest impact in CRE then, given that, I guess, if I look at the traditional way CRE is done, coming from your era, my era, I guess we all have habits or a tradition of doing things.
Yeah.
What do you think in your mind is one or two of the major impact that we have to be conscious about?
I think one of the impacts we have to be, I think the first impact would be that when AI is provided with certain fields of data in which the analysis is then pulled together, the data sets need to be correct in the first place, and the amount of data the right amount of data needs to be provided. But we've got to, I think, remember that the AI output will not include some of the individuality of a particular company and how they operate. So an example would be an AI output might suggest an FM solution. It might suggest a way of optimizing a floor. It might suggest a way of, doing something that looks on paper to be a very sensible and pragmatic thing to follow. But the advantage then, or what we then do as advisors, is look at the actual company that we're advising and say, actually, this will support what you're doing, but actually we know that this doesn't work for you, either for political reasons within the company, for HR personnel reasons, or just that it just doesn't align with the CEO or the CFO's strategy. So it's really the ability to almost cherry pick the information from AI to make it the most appropriate and most effective information to provide to the client.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I myself have a few don't say incidents with you using leveraging AI on my decision making in the past as well. And I do find it a little bit, I wouldn't say threatening, but you almost need to be extra careful because it can be quite addictive. And
Yes.
the convenience that it provides is quite addictive. I remember doing some sort of analytical report recently. And I just decided that, okay, I know that I've got a few months to do this, but let's try leveraging AI to see how far I could
Mm.
get. And within a couple of days, I almost got addicted to using AI and letting AI telling me what to do. But after 2 days, I realized I couldn't get on with the report because even though every single thing that AI is telling me makes a lot of sense and it's usually justified with reference and so on and so forth,
Yeah.
my instinct just tells me that it doesn't feel quite right. Having
Yes.
been doing this for 25 years, I look at the result and go, somehow it just doesn't make sense, and I couldn't go on with the analysis.
Yeah.
So in the end, I had to chuck it away and start again, and started realizing that I need to use AI very, very differently. I
Yeah.
gave it a specific task, provide the information. I do the analytics because, like what you just pointed out, a lot of time it's about finding that match to what your organization specifically needs, together with the, I don't know, the political landscape and the
Y-
dynamics that you have within the
Yeah.
organization. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I think the advantage with AI when you're given a blank canvas to create a strategy, I think one of the advantages with AI, first of all, is the speed of it providing
Mm,
you theoretical solutions. But I think there are benefits with using it right at the outset of building a strategy, because it will provide, again, providing the data is correct, it will provide a directionally correct, or a very close to directionally correct sort of glide path to what success could look like.
yeah.
And I think once you have that, to your point that you just made, then with your knowledge of
Mm,
the client, or the advisory services you're providing, you can actually say, well, this glide path, the end game looks like where we want to get to, but we can't follow the exact path of the AI output. We need to massage
yeah.
and make some changes, at certain stages along that path.
Yeah.
But
I think so.
the initial plan, because it's so quick, is something that I think saves a lot of time
Yeah.
at the front end, especially when you're making advisory, when you're giving advice.
Yeah, yeah. So which I'm curious to know your thoughts on which sector or sorry, not sector, which section of CRE, which component of CRE do you think will most benefit from the progression of AI then?
I think I think there are certain things that around the facilities management and the integrated facilities management of certainly larger occupiers. AI is potentially very useful.
Mm,
Um, around the supply chain, the effectivity of the services, and also, linking in with that sort of any sustainability or ESG type of
yes, yes.
goals that the company has. I think AI has a very strong capability in that area to support FM. I think also, in the project management side of what we all do, because of the available analytics on utilization, and as well as the utilization, the ways in which people are now wanting to work.
Yeah.
We're all very clear that the return to office is no longer a 5 day. It seems like that's a thing of the
Yeah.
past, but how people work when they come in 2 days versus 4 days or 3 days, where they want to work, the types of work settings they want to work in. I think with the data and the analytics that can be fed into AI, there's some very interesting results that will come out of that. And then the last thing really is around sort of real estate cycles, and where the market is going, and how that will
Mm,
influence companies' decisions on, when is the right time to expand, when is the right time to enter into renewal discussions, or longer term lease discussions. The ability for AI to provide very, I think, sound advice and information around market cycles, availability of space,
Yes,
what's happening in the market, comparables with other, because the data is all out there, and it's just a question of making sure
yes,
that AI has the ability to capture it. I think that allows us all to be more proactive in making
yes.
longer term strategic decisions.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think the data analytics of AI, sorry, the data analytic power of AI
Yeah,
is certainly quite impressive. Given my background in workplace, I guess inevitably I do think about workplace quite a lot and how the impacts on workplace, right? So if I think about for example, auditing the utilization, that's now completely AI. I
yeah,
doubt there's anyone who is still doing census and still doing the traditional ways of compiling occupancy level. And then all the sort of, I guess, all the good days that we used to have to calculate the actual sharing ratios and where we actually cared about sharing ratio is long gone. Really,
yeah,
it's sort of evaporated in the last 2 or 3 years. So the workplace, even just looking at the workplace slides of CRE, it's that itself is becoming a very landscape. A different landscape. The only thing that I do think it's very difficult to replace is that hand holding of human emotions.
yeah,
Yeah. Because when you do create, even if you get sort of AI design tool to create the most up-to-date workplace environment, you create the
yeah,
best office, generate one button generation of a beautiful layout, even gives you the cost and the materials and so on and so forth. First, you get someone to build it, that human interaction, but I think that's, we all know that's irreplaceable. But once you put people in there, the traditional means of change management, which is all around hand holding and managing that emotional journey of
yeah,
adapting to the new environment, becomes ever more important. And
absolutely.
there's equivalent component of that in the entire real estate life cycle as well. That sort of human interaction that we need to have
Yeah,
in terms of making things real by leveraging the insights that's generated by AI has become ever more important rather than the other way around, I
yeah,
think.
yeah. I agree, and in that sense, our role as real estate advisors has also changed. I think the communication into the decision makers, the stakeholders of the companies you're working with, around the direction of travel that is being taken and how to support the individuals within the company that will inevitably be impacted by
Mm,
the changes. I think you're right. The change management part is more and more vital. But I think also, change management is a sort of a tagline that's used a lot. And I think even the meaning of change management probably is
mm,
changing because, it used to be, how do you manage someone working, two people working on the same desk, because that the utilization of that desk is such that two
yeah.
people in a working week can work. And that was sort of as much change management as you needed to deal with, making sure people didn't had a clear desk policy, and
Mm,
they had a locker for their thing. That was early days change management, but I think we're
yes.
now far beyond that, and it's more around the overall and almost the entire environment.
Yes.
And the fact that
Exactly.
as an office user, when you go into the office, um, you asked about some of the things that AI has impact on, but also sort of building management tools. The ability for us to control the heat, the air quality,
Mm,
the cooling of our space almost becomes an individual's
yeah.
not so much responsibility, but an individual can now influence that in certain buildings.
Yeah.
And I think it's that type of change to make sure people, when they come in, it's not just about putting their things in a locker and having a desk that is an unassigned desk, but it's more about the fact that the entire
The
environment,
holistic
the holistic
experience.
environment, is
Yeah.
almost theirs to enjoy.
Yeah.
And I think if it's done the right way, and that the individuals concerned, or the workforce concerned, are brought in to the journey and
Yeah.
brought through the journey,
Yeah.
it ends up being the argument not to come in the office. And this is, I guess, showing my age to a certain point. I like to see people in the office because I think it's a huge benefit from people sitting at home on screens. But the more you make people feel they have ownership and they belong within the office, which I think some of the output and some of the technology that is not all AI, but AI has a component of it, is a
Yeah,
component of it. I
yeah,
think it makes people feel belonging rather to
yeah.
the to the space.
Yeah, I think so. They have the rights to customize it to their liking,
Yeah,
to the way,
correct.
that's really Jeremy or that's really the profile genie. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
more
agree. Yeah,
traditionally. I think the
yeah,
mistake there certainly for the smaller medium-sized businesses is that I don't think they can replace certain individuals. I think they can replace certain types of roles where there's the type of role that is data collecting and number
yeah,
crunching and the sort of more manual type of role. But I think to take away um, any level of experience role and try and totally replace it by whether it's broadly artificial intelligence or technology as a whole is quite
mm,
dangerous for many of the reasons we've spoken
yeah,
about. But I do think there's a misconception, and this is actually one of the reasons I wanted to learn more about it, because I didn't want to be that person that just believes the whole solution to everything in the world is going to be AI, because I don't
mm,
think it will be.
yeah,
And when you focus in on real estate as we are, it doesn't provide the total solution to the perfect way to manage a real estate portfolio or
mm,
an individual building. It certainly gives a lot more information to help support the management and the operations of that building, but you can't
yeah,
replace human experience, if
yeah,
that's the right word.
yeah. No, I
So I
think
think
it's
that's the risk of
definitely.
companies, that they think they're, I guess, being, well, being sensible and taking out areas of or certain roles because they can be replaced by automation. But I think there are
Yeah.
opportunities to skinny those numbers down, but not eliminate them for the reasons I've just said.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I'm going back to what we said earlier on, that sort of human interaction experience that one has gained over the last 30 years and having been burned in the cycle a number
Yeah,
of times. These are probably one of the most precious experience that we're going to be having, right?
I agree.
Yeah. If you have someone with 30 years of experience reading the AI generated information or the automatic analytics compared to someone who just had 5 years is completely different. I mean, the level
Yeah,
of risk that you can spot immediately is non-comparable.
yeah,
So, I mean, I do believe very strongly that with AI maturing, it really does make people with a lot of corporate experience in real estate ever more important. I guess the
yeah,
question for the CFOs and CEOs to think about is how to bring this experience back in on a logical basis, right? Whether you want to do it, with the popular or fractional that we,
yeah,
we speak about quite a lot, or whether there's other means of bringing it back on the most critical area of decision making, it might lead to a very different operational model.
yeah. And AI will develop. I mean, it's developing quicker than anything we as humans can understand, really. But as it develops, it will always have new challenges. And as you say, the more experienced the person is looking at the output of AI or other analytical technology tools, the the as it advances, there is still the ability to sort of pick up on areas where there is risk of just completely following what we're being told. So,
Yeah.
but I also think the human element. So in this case, myself or yourself, we also need. There's almost an obligation to us if we're telling our clients or we're telling the business stakeholders we're working with. If you're on the corporate side, we're providing the advice. We need, sort of hand on heart, I think, to be able to say we understand as much as possible, and we're making a conscious effort to
Yes.
learn as much as we can. It's almost like a language, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's never, you're never finished learning, and the more we continue to learn, I think the advice we can then provide will continue to be absolutely necessary.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. All right, thank you very much. I guess we're coming to the almost the end of that interview, but I do have one burning question. In Resolute Global, we deal with quite a lot of, I guess, key decision makers in the C-suite on real estate. Could you give us, what advice or what suggestions would you be able to share with these decision makers about the future of CRE decision making in relation to whatever you think is important?
I think the message I would give to the people you're talking about at that level. So the message I would give is, I think they need to understand what is possible. They need to understand, and I think that they need to understand what is possible, what is realistically possible, and the timelines within which outcomes can be delivered. They also, I think, need to understand that change cannot be made immediately, even though AI or another tool might suggest changes can be made pretty quickly. Things in the timing in real estate, I think, is something that is not always understood enough by the senior leadership team. And I think they also, my experience of, if you like, the C-suite or these senior stakeholders is when the changes are required, and we talked about change earlier on in this discussion, by the people and the teams working in the space, the common challenge we find with advising companies to change is that the C-suite tend to be either the slowest group to change, or in certain cases, in my experience, I've had cases where there's been change demanded from, if you like, the workforce, but the senior leadership team decide for one reason or another they won't change. And I think I think for the impact and the benefit of the advisory services that are provided, as well as the enhancement that AI and other tools provide, changes need to be driven really right from the top. So I think that would be the one, other than the other points I mentioned, that I think would be the one piece of work that would need most effort to explain, discuss, and, if you like, almost educate the leadership team as to why it's important that they change as well as their teams, because it simply doesn't work if you have an office with change happening in one place and on a different part of the floor there's no change. So I think the sort of top-down empowered CEO that takes all the change on board, and he or she is the first one to make those changes, the rest becomes a lot easier to deliver.
Yep, I agree. Leading by example and equality. These are always two very, very big topics in terms of managing people. Yeah.
Okay. And I think we can help with that. And I think one of the things we also, I think, need to do more of is trying to get to know those people as best we can, because their lives are different from many of ours, and the people that are in the larger workforce, what they do day to day is certainly very different from a CEO or a CFO or a COO. So to understand some of their challenges that they will have to make to change is important, because we can't just assume
that they should change.
That they should change, but we need to help them manage their own workday patterns and workday responsibilities to enable them to change, which will then in turn enable the rest of the teams to change as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Fully agree. Okay, well, Jeremy, thank you very much for today's discussion.
It's a pleasure.
We are right on the dot. It's 45 minutes now. God, time flies. Thank you so much for this.
Absolute pleasure.
So I will see you next time.
Good. Look forward to it.